Hi, I'm Amy.
And I'm Annabelle, and welcome to Escape Purgatory, a podcast where we rewatch Supernatural, then talk it through in the hope that we can finally escape this show.
Join us each week and leave comments on upcoming episodes, and we can escape Supernatural Purgatory together.
So this week, we are talking about Bloodlust.
Ooh.
It was such a good episode.
So good.
This has an 8.3, which I'm actually surprised at. I would have thought maybe it'd be a little bit higher. On IMDb, the director, it was Robert Singer. Writer was Sarah Gamble.
Mm-hmm.
You can start to see who the writers are for each episode now a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, it felt like one of her episodes because it didn't feel so shallow.
Oh, okay. Going on. I feel like Sarah Gamble, she's very familiar in her writing style. Like it feels like later seasons of Supernatural, her writing style, which means she must have written a lot for sort of like the final 5 seasons at least. I know she wrote a lot of episodes, but I feel like this kind of Sam and Dean, like the way they act here, is very similar. Definitely.
I know, I have lots of good thoughts about this episode. I feel like with the name Bloodlust, it kind of is obvious it's a vampire episode. So you could kind of see that's where they were kind of going with the recap. It was focused mostly on like dead man's blood, that episode.
Absolutely. And it was so good. Like, I love these recaps. I can't remember the recaps being as good later on, but they're choosing these like really good music. So for this one, it was Wheel in the Sky by Journey, and it just fits really nicely with the clips they chose. And like, unsung hero of Supernatural here is the person who put together these recaps.
I mean, you're not wrong, because the edit where Dean from the previous episode where he says I'm dealing with Dad's death, are you? And they intercut it with him like smashing up the Impala. It's just like
it's too good. It's too good. So great recap, great song, really gets the feel of the episode before you go into it. It was awesome.
So I do have something before we get straight into it. I think I've been misinterpreting how we've been talking about the Impala.
Oh.
In that, like, the way that I was thinking was with the comparisons between the boat story, like how much of the boat is really. So I was thinking in terms of like how much is the Impala still the Impala?
Yeah.
Not how much is it still John's Impala? Because right now, this is no longer John's Impala because that was completely destroyed. This is now Dean's Impala. Oh,
yes, you're so right. Yes.
Okay, so it wasn't just... Okay, so that's what I thought you meant. So, okay, we were on the same level, but okay. So now, like, this is how now I'm thinking, okay, John's Impala has been destroyed.
Yes.
And now this is Dean's Impala. And we get that with this episode because this is the first time that the Impala is being referred to as baby.
You know, if you two want to get a room, just let me know, Dean.
Oh, don't listen to him, baby. He doesn't understand us.
Yes! Oh my god, I freaked out. So, okay, this whole scene, the noise I made, it wasn't human. Like, as they're driving the newly beautiful Impala and Back in Black is playing.
Yes.
Oh man, like, it's just everything I ever wanted. The close-ups of the car. Okay, I'm sure you already know this about me, but I love a classic car. I love it.
Yeah.
Oh man, if I could own like any kind of steel-framed hunk of metal from the 1960s, like I would be happy. There are car shows near here, and I need to go to more of them. But yeah, I love this. I love like the close-up of the rims they did. Like it was just every little thing about it.
I literally wrote. I don't know if we can say this, but this was pure Impala porn.
Yes, it was.
So you girl, Impala.
Yes. I mean, we all know the Impala's clearly a woman. I mean, you always give ships female pronouns and names, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
same with cars.
Exactly. It's the same thing. So, yeah, I love this. Like, Dean's so happy. Like, he's just so, like, luminous and happy about driving.
Yeah.
It's great.
We did skip a scene, but I mean, that scene is basically just a woman getting chased around the forest and she gets decapitated. That's kind of it.
Yeah, like before the title card. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, actually, the decapitation with the sickle was pretty cool.
It was good.
It's definitely called a sickle, right? That's what.
Yeah, I was trying to think of the name of it, and I keep coming back to awl, but that's not what it is. It looked like either Hookman or Scarecrow, because the guy who's like wielding this weapon is also wearing like a hat and like a duster, like coat.
Yeah, it's giving you the impression that this is the monster.
Yeah. I think it was really good. And they recap this when they're in the car driving. So, you know, Sam's talking about, like, you know, we've got a case with, like, severed heads and, like, mutilated cows. And, like, Dean's happy because they have a case as well. It's not just that the Impala's fixed, but they're driving somewhere to do their job. And he's just in his element, I guess.
No reason.
Got my car, got a case. Things are looking up.
Wow. Give you a couple of severed heads and a pile of dead cows and you're Mr. Sunshine.
Yeah, so, okay. When we're recording this, some of the deleted scenes from 15 has come out. And one in particular is them in the car and it's just weird. It's a weird scene. Mm-hmm. And I feel like this is what they were trying to capture in that scene, but they didn't get it right in that episode. Also, it didn't make sense for that episode for them to have this same kind of plucky attitude and like and I mean it's even interesting because I had mentioned to Amy when she showed me the scene, sent me the link. I said, hey, have they ever referred to jobs as cases? And it didn't feel right, but in this they actually do, and I was like, okay, so sometimes they do actually refer to jobs as cases. So in that deleted scene, it jumped out as really bizarre to me, whereas here it didn't.
Yeah, I agree with you. The deleted scene from like 15-20 of them in the car felt really odd. I can't really put my finger on why, but you're right. When you look back and you watch this episode from like season 2, of them sort of joking around and being very happy in the car, listening to music, the same music that was going to be playing on the radio in 15-20, you're like, yeah, it does feel very disjointed. Like, I know they shouldn't be this happy here. I guess they've just lost John, but it's been a little while and they're kind of getting back on their feet after that. And maybe that's the same idea they were going for. Like, they lost all those people and they're trying to get back to it.
Right.
It doesn't work because there's a big old story arc in between those two episodes.
Exactly.
That's what that deleted scene was completely ignoring. You wouldn't be in the same place that you were then. Like, that's not how life works.
There's like 13 years between these 2 points in their lives. Yeah. You're not going to act exactly the same. So it just was interesting to see it, like, after seeing this deleted scene and being like, okay, so this is what they were going for, but they completely missed the mark because it didn't make sense.
Exactly. You're exactly right.
So we are now in the sheriff's office, and the sheriff has a wonderful mustache.
Oh, it's good.
It's just a great mustache. And Sam styled his hair. They are now they're reporters, and they're trying to find out information about like the mutilated cows and the decapitated heads. And they're kind of the sheriff just basically laughs in their face of like, you believe that this is a satanic cult because what? And he basically explains like why the cows aren't actually mutilated because of like science and the science of like decomposition. And it's so funny. Their faces as he's explaining this is just hilarious. They look like they're about to throw up. It's like, I love this as well. Like, yeah, the cows just explode, guys. And then things get in, and yeah.
It's
it's kind of gross.
Yeah.
I guess the way that he nonchalantly talks about it, but at the same time, we're in like farm town, Montana, so finding dead cows is probably not that rare.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's because he kind of questions them on who they are as well when he's having to explain this like cow business, and like ask who they work for, and Dean clearly says the name of the newspaper that they'd said wrong.
But hey, it could be Satan. What newspaper do you say you work for?
World Weekly News.
Weekly World News.
It's World
Weekly World.
I'm new.
Because Sam like immediately corrects him, which is so stupid. Like,
and it's just like, go with it. Like, don't worry about it too much. But
exactly.
But Dean sort of shrugs it off, like, oh, I'm new. Like, you don't know the name of the company you work for? Great.
I mean, yeah, fine. So yeah, the sheriff tells them to get out. They come away with no more information essentially than they started with. And then we cut to the hospital, and they're dressed as doctors. I just like, look, I love me a lab coat. Like, I love a lab coat. Also, here's a tip. If you're trying to pull stuff like this, people believe people in lab coats. It's psychologically proven. Or high-vis jackets. I saw one once where it's like, if you're carrying a ladder, it's about the confidence. But particularly, like a uniform will give you that sort of authority, I think, and people will believe you more, which is also kind of terrifying.
Yeah, it is. I guess, like, you go to the doctors and you have to respect the doctor, so, like, you don't question them or anything. Same with, like, police and stuff. Well, we got 2 outfits or 2 costumes in this episode. Like,
yes.
Wow. Like, their budget must have increased.
I love the little suits they were wearing here. I don't know, there was something like... They're not their FBI suits they had from season 1. They've gone shopping since then.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah, they have. So, like, he's an employee there. They basically get him out of the way by lying to him, and Dean seems very much in his element. Just like... Yep. not even fazed by it.
As they walk into, I think it's the morgue they're in, they're talking about another satanic cult that they've heard of that marked their victims with like a reverse pentagram, which I'm not sure what a reverse pentagram means. I guess it's upside down, but it's not. I'm like, if you flip it, it's just the same. Anyway, and it was in Florida.
So much effed up crap happens in Florida.
Which is the closest I think they ever really come to saying like the F word.
Yeah, and I mean there was a close call in the last episode, so there's two occurrences in 2 concurrent episodes.
I think he's maybe right about Florida. The things that we hear on the news is
Florida man. He gets around.
It's true. Like, if there's ever a zombie apocalypse, that's gonna be like ground zero, right? It's gonna be Florida.
I think it's because it's just so hot, like your brain just melts.
But yeah, Dean's right. Florida's supposedly crazy. So they opened the drawer to get the body, and I don't know why I was distracted by this, but I guess Dean, but probably Jensen, is really struggling to get the glove on, because they're putting on like latex or nitrile gloves, and he's just like real struggling with that. Can relate, absolutely. I wear them for my everyday job, so I must go through pairs and pairs and pairs every single day. It does get easier, but sometimes your hands get so like sweaty. Trying to put like a glove on like a sweaty hand is just like disgusting.
And it just doesn't work.
So yeah, exactly. So they take a box out of the drawer which contains this woman's head, and they look at it and say like, oh, there's nothing on it, like nothing on her forehead, so I guess it's not satanic. Dean says something here, and this is like the first of like 3 references to Silence of the Lambs in this episode. So he says like check her mouth like Silence of the Lambs in case they left a moth in there or whatever, and then they kind of argue, which I thought was really funny about who was going to do it.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
What?
I knew Sam was going to lose as soon as they started that argument. Of
He always does. He always does.
Yeah. He always gets the gross jobs, I've noticed. Like, he went down that hole in bugs. I'm trying to think of another one I can, but I know there's some coming up.
He's done the other body examinations too.
That's true, yes. So he looks at the head and is not happy about it.
Dean, give me a bucket.
Find something?
No, I'm gonna puke.
And then Dean notices something and he says like, oh, yeah, move her mouth out of the way again. And then they notice that she's actually a vampire. It's the typical... We definitely see this again. This is how they keep it now, with the fangs coming out of the like upper gums.
I guess at this point they must realize there's another hunter in town. Because why else would there be a decapitated vampire?
Absolutely true.
There's one vampire. Usually there's going to be a nest, so they go off and try and find the nest of vampires, which leads them to just a bar in town, and we meet a bartender who is none other than Eli, aka Benny, Ty Olsen.
Yes. I was so happy to see Benny. Okay. I need to go full like headcanon here, because how are we tying Benny into this? Because he's such a big character later on, but then he's here.
So okay, my headcanon. So I looked up his story because I couldn't remember Benny's backstory that well.
Yeah.
He was turned by an old one.
Mm-hmm.
So he's been around for a while.
Yeah.
So he might, and he runs away from the old one.
Yeah.
So he might have joined this other nest to hide. So he changes his name and like changes his accent and everything to blend in with this new crowd of vampires to hide from.
You think he would remember Dean? I know obviously this isn't the case, but but maybe he does, and it's just awkward.
Well, so you would think they would remember each other.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Well, Dean might not remember him, but just because Dean doesn't meet Eli outside of the story of this. Like, I don't want to get into exactly how this story goes. He only meets him in the bar. So, whereas Benny, we don't know how long Benny is in purgatory, so he may not truly remember.
That's true. I'm guessing time probably works differently in purgatory as well. Mm-hmm. Ooh, I like this. I think you can make it work. I think it can. I mean, obviously, this is not the intention of the writers,
no.
But I think there are ways you can make this work, and I kind of love it. I kind of love it.
So Ty Olsen comes back on because he's friends with Jensen, right? That's the reason why he came back onto the show?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Because I feel like they are so, like, the cast is so good at just enveloping people into their, like, fold.
I mean, that's it, like, maybe. I mean, you know, or the thing is, like, Ty Olsen seems to get these, like, he has a lot of roles in a lot of sci-fi shows. If you watch anything, I'm like, like, I see him every now and then in different things. So, I guess once you're tagged, I guess, as, like, someone who's on sort of genre shows, you end up being on all the genre shows.
All of them, yeah. I mean, just look at Mark Sheppard.
Yeah.
He's the greatest example of that.
Exactly. So, I mean, I guess it's almost typecasting, I guess. Maybe they accidentally recast him as a vampire. Like, I could totally see that happening as well.
I mean, he could have also just been like, you know, I had so much fun on this one episode being a vampire that, like, I'll come back.
Yeah.
We don't know he's a vampire yet, but Never mind. If you're listening to this before you've watched the episode, oh well.
I mean, the episode's called Bloodlust.
Yeah. And as they are talking to Eli, they're sort of being watched by this guy in the corner. Mm-hmm. We don't know who he is, and as they leave, it shows that his table is now empty, like with a burning cigarette, which he doesn't smoke ever again in this episode, but apparently.
That's a good point. It's very like Aragorn from Lord of the Rings.
I also, at this point, was when I realised it was Sterling Brown, who,
yes,
he's Black Panther's uncle.
Mm-hmm.
Black Panther. I was like, I know his face, and he looks so familiar, and I was like, ah! And we see Sam and Dean, and they kind of like are walking down the alley, and he then follows them, and suddenly they're not in the alley, and he gets jumped by them.
Yeah. So they must have known that they were being followed, I guess.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're pretty observant, so they probably noticed that, like, there was a guy in the corner, and then he left everything. I'm like, that's kind of weird. He proves that he's not a vampire by lifting his top lip to show his gum. And then it cuts to him, like, showing his weaponry, and I'm like, of course. Of course. Like, you're a hunter. What's the first thing that you're going to show? Your weapons. It's clearly a dick joke.
It's clearly a dick joke. This is the thing, and this is what still makes me think Dead Man's Blood, the machete thing, was definitely a dick joke. And I'm like, it's still weird. I mean, we can't talk, dick jokes in this show, full stop. Season 7 is one entire dick joke. So, I mean.
Oh, and look who wrote season 7.
That's true. Sarah Gamble.
What are you saying?
What's with the dick jokes? Yeah, so as he slides out his cool, like, weaponry thing from the trunk of his car, you see that he has the sickle. It kind of gives you that connection that he was the hunter, I guess, at the beginning of the episode. So he is kind of excited to meet Sam and Dean, and it's the first time that we kind of see that they have some kind of recognition in the hunter community.
Sam and Dean Winchester. I can't believe it. You know, I met your old man once. Hell of a guy. Great hunter.
And he says that he doesn't know about them directly, kind of, but he knew John, and he's kind of heard on the grapevine that they're good at what they do. That's kind of all they know about them at the moment, is they're good hunters, probably because they're John's sons, so they're still being very much
lumped in with John.
Exactly.
Yeah. Because he also says that, like, they're good hunters and good trackers. So the way I took that was, like, someone's been boasting about them. Mm-hmm. And I was wondering, who would that be? Like, would it be Bobby? Like, I could see Bobby being like, yeah, I taught them everything that they know, kind of thing.
That's true, yeah.
Because obviously it would have been John. Like, John didn't talk about his sons in that way.
No. I mean, I guess they did one job for Ellen now in the Roadhouse, so it could have come from there. He even says here, like, oh, you know how hunters talk. And I think it's Sam that says, like, we don't actually. And I was like, this is so good. Like, this is so true. They can be so involved in that life and then not know anything about it at all. Yeah.
Yeah. And I know it's, like, on part because of how Kripke wrote it that way, but it is kind of interesting as it develops that they're kind of acknowledging that they don't know. Yeah. Rather than trying to hide the fact that they did know but didn't tell anybody.
Yeah, I think it's better like that they've been kept in the dark from this whole connection that John has with the Hunters Network. Because even Gordon says...
I guess there's a lot your dad never told you, huh?
If that isn't the understatement of the century. And
who knows what is.
The camera, like... Okay, so we still don't know at this point what John told Dean at the end of episode 1. But the way the camera, like, went to his face after Gordon said that, and he kind of, like, looks to the side a little bit, I was like, oh, he told him something though, didn't he?
Yeah. He had a lot of secrets, but he told Dean one.
Exactly.
So we end up in, like, we cut to what looks kind of like a shipyard, or just lots of machinery around. A person, a man, like, hears a noise, and he starts to investigate. I didn't hear anything on my TV. Like, I was like, how did he even hear something that far? Oh, he's a vampire.
Yeah.
That's why he could hear it, because he has enhanced hearing. Actually, before we get there, Gordon's saying, I'll take care of this nest. Like, you can go on. Like, don't worry about it. So, we get to this vampire, and Gordon's there, and he starts to fight him. And then there's a stunt goof in this.
Right.
So, there's a chainsaw that's going. I don't know why there's a chainsaw like this out. But it's going, and then Gordon gets like flung into it, and his foot hits the blades of the of the chainsaw, and does nothing. Like the prop just bounces. Mm-hmm. Like I was just like, probably need to refilm that, but obviously they can only do fight sequences so many times.
I mean, that reminds me. This is the episode that Jared broke his hand, and I can't figure out what stunt it was in this episode that he did when he did it.
Oh, I didn't know he broke his hand.
Yeah.
Huh. He's only in like this fight scene and another fight scene in this episode. Yeah. And that's it.
I was trying to figure out like which stunt was it that like broke his hand, and I couldn't figure it out.
So yeah, Gordon's gotten the better of by the vampire, and he's about to like this chainsaw thing can be like lowered.
Why?
Yeah, I don't know what this place is. I cannot for the life of me think. Maybe it's like a lumber yard of some kind, but
maybe, yeah.
I don't know. And then Gordon gets like this whole little sequence is kind of really weirdly done. Like the chainsaw takes a really long time, so it gives enough time for him to get pulled out from underneath the chainsaw by either Sam or Dean. I didn't see who. They fight some more. It's 3-on-1 to this vampire, and the vampire gets bested by Dean by lowering the chainsaw onto his head and decapitating him. His face after he kills, and he's got like the blood splatter on, like I don't know what that expression is. It's like dazed. It's maybe like I don't know. It was weird. I didn't like it.
I wrote the same thing. Like he's been like itching for a fight and like this hunt the whole episode so far. And saying like, oh, it's so good to be back out, blah, blah, blah. And then they like kill this vampire, and I guess it's pretty bloody and gruesome. But he looks like not happy about it at all. And him and Sam like share a look after he's killed this vampire. And I'm like, what is this? Because I initially thought like, does he feel bad about it? I guess I was thinking about it because I think the last thing that Dean killed is it Tom the Demon?
Yes. Yeah. With the
cult. Mm-hmm. And that was just a guy who was being possessed, right? So maybe there's some kind of mixed feelings between that of like, I killed that human essentially, and this vampire. Vampires look human at the end of the day, so it must be really disconcerting.
Definitely. Is it a kind of? I almost thought like it's like a haze almost as well. So like, is it Dean's bloodlust that we're talking about in this episode, or is it vampire bloodlust?
Ooh, hey.
And I mean, there is an answer to this. Absolutely an answer to this that comes at the end of the episode. But that definitely sort of I was like, I don't know how I feel about this. He's scary. He's actually kind of scary at that point.
Yeah, I think they all are in this episode. Well, particularly Dean and Gordon. I would say Sam's a bit less terrifying, but they definitely seem hunters in this episode, like a capital H hunters. Especially because of the beginning sequence. I think that helps with that feel of that, with that the woman being stalked through the woods by
something.
Exactly, it's a typical horror movie trope, but the fact that she's a monster, I guess, it kind of throws it on its head. And then it's weird because like you get this strange look between them, and then it kind of cuts to the bar, and they're drinking with Gordon and essentially like celebrating this kill.
Yeah, and like Sam's not into it, not at all.
No.
Like he's kind of like he's obviously happy that the vampire's dead, but he's like, I don't really celebrate decapitating somebody.
Yeah, I get it.
Is it the way that they were raised? Because John didn't celebrate. He didn't celebrate his kills. No. He moved on to the next one. Like that was what it is. So this is kind of what like I feel like Sam's picked up that kind of trait a little bit, and obviously we know like Dean likes to party, so like he'll celebrate when he can. So I think that's kind of where it's coming from a little bit. Why Sam is not like into it, because it's like, okay, it was just a job, like that was it. the thing is, the job's not finished. They've just killed another vampire, and they're celebrating. So I think maybe Sam's more like, okay, well, we need to move on. Like, the job's not finished. We can't sit here and, like, get drunk.
Also, like, he must be questioning, this vampire was just, like, dressed as a security guard. Like, he was at his job.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they didn't interrupt him killing anyone, or they didn't save anybody at the same time. They literally just sort of hunted down this guy and decapitated him.
Mm-hmm. And, I mean, the only person that they saved was Gordon, and Gordon started it.
Exactly, yeah. So it must feel weird, because normally they are, like, saving somebody at the same time as killing a monster. There's a bit, you know, Gordon's obviously impressed with Dean here. He's saying, like, oh, you know, you did such a good job. I like that Gordon calls Sam Sammy here.
Dean, you gave that big-ass Fang one hell of a haircut, my friend.
Thank you.
That was beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
Yeah. You all right, Sammy?
Yeah, fine.
Well, lighten up a little, Sammy.
He's the only one who gets to call me that.
And he's so, like...
He shuts that down immediately.
Gordon's picking up on his, like, bad vibes, and, like, he's trying to convince him that it's okay. Like, you know, it wasn't human. We did what we needed to do. But yeah, you're right. Sam's not having any of it at all, and he eventually goes back to the motel. And Dean's parting line here was so uncomfortable.
Sammy. Remind me to beat that buzzkill out of you later, right?
And then it just leaves. And I was like, Dean, that's not cool.
Yeah, no, that was kind of like... so I didn't pick up on it then. Is this Gordon's influence? Maybe.
Yeah, this is it. Like, it's all very, like, there's a lot of, I don't know how to say it. Like, there's a lot of, like, macho bravado going on between Gordon and Dean.
Yeah, like, so Dean recounts his first, like, monster kill. I'm not sure if it's his first monster kill, but definitely one that affected him at 16. And it's just like, Jesus, John, come on.
Come on.
And, you know, he's saying that, like, kids that age are worried about prom and, like, pimples, and he's out there, like, seeing things that nobody else would ever see.
Yeah, and it's clearly supposed to be kind of a story to kind of impress Gordon. Like, oh yeah, you know, I've been killing monsters, like, nearly my whole life, and, like, this is the job we do, you know, very much, like, getting on his wavelength. But it just kind of came across as a bit sad. But yeah, so, you know, I guess, like, I did say, like, trading war stories, but I guess it's more akin to, like, if you go to, I don't know, a Star Trek convention, people always ask you, like, oh, you know, how long have you been watching the show? Like, how did you get into it? Because, and often also because, you know, I wasn't, I guess, alive when the original series of Star Trek came out. I do get asked that quite a lot, like, oh, how did you get into a show that was originally aired in the 60s? You recount that story of, like, you know, oh, you know, my mum got me watching it, etc. Except this is way more horrific because it's talking about killing monsters.
Definitely.
They're trying to find common ground because they've never really, I guess they've never really spoken to other hunters much apart from Bobby now, but he's kind of a different generation where I think Gordon almost seems closer to their age. He's definitely older than them, but he's closer in age to them than, say, John or Bobby or even Ellen. Mm-hmm. So it's quite interesting to see, like, a little bit into their future.
And I guess also we kind of had another trading of stories with Joe and Dean. It was more on Joe's side to say, like, how did you find out about the hunting lifestyle? I guess from now on, that's how they kind of communicate. It's like, tell me your first story. kind of thing.
Exactly. And I guess, like, Gordon tells his in return. So it turns out that, like, vampires broke into his house. Just, you know, he was just about to turn 18, I think he says, and he saw a vampire attack his sister, and he tried to fend it off but failed and got knocked out. And then when he woke up, his sister was gone. He just, like, could never really explain what he had seen to his family, so he left and started hunting. I guess it's implied that he kind of only hunts vampires. Yeah. But he clearly knows about other things as well, because he mentioned, like, chupacabra to them and stuff.
Which is, it's kind of interesting because, again, like, Bobby we know is, like, the demon expert, but hunts other things, and now we have a vampire expert that hunts other things.
Okay, I have a problem with this. I have a slight problem with there being a vampire hunting expert, because he said he knew John. Again, I'm bringing it back to this because it's going to haunt me. John said in Dead Man's Blood he thought vampires were extinct, but here he is knowing somebody who is definitely an expert on hunting vampires.
And that's actually the second vampire expert that we met, because the first guy in Dead Man's Blood,
yep,
he was also an expert, and he'd been doing it even longer.
Also knew John. John, you just not listen. Like it doesn't. Like
he only listens to the things he wants to hear. He has selective hearing.
Oh well, yeah, that's true.
100. So Gordon is sympathetic to the loss of John to Dean, and like the way that Dean sort of responds felt like he very much like not even junior school, but like infant school, like my dad is the best dad ever kind of thing. Like my dad's better than your dad because he can do this kind of argument, and because he says,
so you're always thinking to yourself, he's indestructible. He'll always be around. Nothing can kill my dad. And just like that, he's gone.
Kind of showing like the hero worship that he had for John. You know, he really believed that he was like, I think he says indestructible. I noticed here that Dean has a nervous tick that he like tugs on his ear when he's uncomfortable, which I thought was a really nice touch.
Mm-hmm. And then he says, I can't really talk about this with Sammy. And it's like, yes, you can. You absolutely can. You absolutely should.
Sam would love it if you would talk to him about this, actually. Like, he would enjoy that conversation. I mean, not enjoy, but, like, welcome it. Oh. I don't understand why he thinks he can't talk to Sam about that. Like, he's literally the only other person that would possibly understand what he's going through. Like,
and, like, he's proven... I'm going to blame John again. Whatever John told Dean makes him feel like he can't talk to him about it.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. Oh my goodness.
Hate John. Still hate John. We'll always forever hate John.
I mean, Dean says here that he's not handling it very well. And I think it's really telling that during this whole episode he's wearing John's jacket still. Mm-hmm. Oh, it's back, and it's for sad reasons.
He doesn't take it off the entire episode. He keeps it on the entire episode.
Yeah, he definitely does. Oh, he does. Gordon says something that's maybe not too healthy. He's like, you can take all that grief, and like, I think Dean says he feels like there's a hole inside him. It's like, and use it towards hunting. And he said it's not a crime to need a job. The thing is that throughout the seasons, Dean does go back to this when they're having a hard time. And I don't know if they just use it as a plot device or whether it is telling of his character. But whenever he is going through a bad time, like they lose somebody or something bad is happening, he kind of uses like hunting, like regular hunting, as opposed to like world-ending hunting, as like a kind of escape, I guess.
Mm-hmm. It's so familiar to him. Mm-hmm. Like it's just what he does. Like it's almost relaxing, I suppose, in a way. Like
get her a better hobby, Dean.
Yeah, basically. So then we're back at the motel and calling Ellen, which is it's actually pretty smart. Like he's basically vetting this other hunter by calling another person who they know is connected with lots of other hunters. And she says, Gordon's a good guy, and then like, okay, cool. Well, we're going on a hunt with him, and then her tone just completely changes. It's like, actually, no, he's and this is the second Hannibal Lecter reference.
Mm-hmm. We're kind of working with him, I guess.
Don't do that, Sam.
I thought you said he was a good hunter.
And Hannibal Lecter's a good psychiatrist. Look, he is dangerous to everyone and everything around him. If he's working on a job, you boys just let him handle it and you move on.
Yeah, and then so we go back to Gordon and Dean, and then they basically talk about how we have spoken about Dean by saying that he sees the world in black and white, and so does Gordon. Like monsters are bad, people are good. Yeah, and if there's bad in the world, you got to kill it, and that is it.
Oh yeah. So he even says about like there's no shades of grey in what we do, and I was like, okay,
Yeah.
Know why I love this life? It's all black and white. There's no maybe. You find the bad thing, kill it. See, most people spend their lives in shades of gray. Is this right? Is that wrong? Not us.
Not sure Sammy would agree with you, but
Doesn't seem like your brother's much like us.
Gordon does say here as well that they were born to do this, that is in their blood, and I was like, more than you know.
Yes, this is very true.
At least we can find amusing things in these from like future knowledge of like,
Yeah, I know.
wait till you find out how true that is.
Definitely. So Sam's at a vending machine and he's getting a drink, and he's being sort of stalked by the camera because it's not quite like in his face, but it's like looking around bushes and trees. He gets into his hotel room and then he gets jumped by I think 3 vampires. He does actually pretty well considering there's three vampires. He gets the upper hand on a couple of them, but then gets knocked out by a telephone.
He throws a really badass punch here, I noticed.
Maybe that was the one that broke his hand.
Maybe, yeah. It looked good.
Maybe it was a little too real. And he's like being transported somewhere. I did like how they did this, like how it kind of went to like true black in between like flashes of light as if he's going across streetlights. And he was but every time it lit up, he was somewhere else. And then he's tied to a chair. Of course he's tied to a chair.
Of course.
And then Eli's there. And Eli's a vampire. I know we said so earlier, but this is now confirmed. That he's a vampire, and he's just... It seems to be just him and Lenore, but it's Tara from Buffy.
Yes, Tara from Buffy is there. So this was one Buffy crossover that I forgot about, I'll be honest. And I was like, oh,
yeah, me too.
Yeah, I think her name's Amber Benson. I think that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was excited to see her. It's not too far off Buffy, I guess, this. So it's interesting to see her playing a vampire.
Definitely. She never got to play one in the show, so...
That's true, no. Oh, yeah. So Lenore explains their whole deal, that they don't kill humans. They're the ones that have been killing all the cattle. That hasn't been mentioned in a bit. And I was like, oh yeah, that was happening at the beginning of the episode. They say that like drinking cattle blood is disgusting, and they're basically hiding from hunters. And she does say here that vampires are practically extinct. So maybe I can give John a little pass. Just a little one. Just a little... Eli isn't too happy still. He kind of wants to kind of still maybe kill them as sort of self-defense because they killed their friend essentially and then celebrated with drinks at the bar, which is not a good look. Really interesting line here. So Lenore explains that they're going to leave. They're just going to skip town to get rid of the hunters. And she says here that, you know, once they have your scent, they'll just keep tracking it, which is such a callback to Dead Man's Blood, because they say the exact same thing about vampires. They say, you know, once they have your scent, they'll track you for life. Which made me think, if vampires and hunters both say this about each other, it doesn't ring true. So it's almost like folklore. Yeah?
Yeah, definitely. But at the same time, it could very well be true, because there's Gordon who does track people, because he said that he's been tracking them from Austin, Texas, to Montana. That's a long distance. Yeah. So he does track them down. Like, that is what he does. Now, we don't know what the other side is for the vampire side, because we never really sort of see that. Well, until 1520, but that doesn't count.
Doesn't count. And like, I guess more so it's showing that vampires clearly talk about hunters the same way hunters talk about vampires, as monsters that are hunting them and, you know, kill them at the end of the day. And I think it's starting to show the other side of it, because we definitely explore this more and more later on, that they're not always the good guys in this.
This whole episode is basically I Am Legend, not the movie version, but the book version.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know. Spoiler alert for the book. Do you want to know?
Yeah.
The guy that you're the protagonist is actually the antagonist to the vampires.
Yeah.
Because he's the one who's going out and killing all of them and, like, experimenting on them, and that's the reason why they come into his house, like, every night to try and stop him. So this is basically that story.
Exactly, yeah. It's turning the... Like, hunters believe that they are doing good, right? And it is turning that all on its head. So, yeah they're going to leave, and they're going to show Sam that they're different because they're going to let him go. Like, completely scot-free, going to let him go. And I wonder why they chose Sam. Do you think that Eli saw at the bar that he wasn't as happy as the other two with the kill that they did, and then decided that he would be the best sympathetic heir?
I think it was just chance. Because Gordon and Dean were still together at the bar, and Sam had gone off on his own.
Yeah, that's true.
I think it was just opportunity. Well, yes, Sam can be more sympathetic while he's tied to the chair. He doesn't believe them at first. He's very much like, no, you guys are just going to kill me, like, eventually. Like, no. So, yeah, they let him go. And then we come back to Dean and Gordon. They're in their motel room now, trying to find out where the nest could be. And I thought this is kind of funny. Oh, not funny, but interesting that Dean still has his jacket on in this scene. Like, he didn't come back and take it off. To me, that kind of says he may not be that trusting of Gordon, to be that relaxed around him.
The jacket's very much an armor, right? So you wouldn't want to take it off around people that you didn't fully trust. And
exactly.
I think it's smart to not trust other hunters because they have the same skill set as you, right? So, like, Gordon probably could take him in a fight, and they don't know. Although he kind of seems cool, I guess, to Dean in the moment, you don't know. I guess they kind of understand the psychological issues that hunters might have to deal with, right? As they're deciding where this farm might be, where the vampires are at, Sam arrives back and he needs to talk to Dean, like, immediately. So he takes him outside.
Actually, so there's a kind of like a line in here before that happens. So Dean starts to worry about Sam, and Gordon just, like, brushes it off. And it's like, oh, he seems like someone who would just have a walk. And, like, he's making some pretty big assumptions about someone he's never really met, and it's kind of rude. Obviously, he knows that Sam is not like Dean in that, you know, he doesn't want to celebrate, like, somebody getting killed. So it's very telling of his character that, like, he doesn't want somebody who doesn't see the world quite as black and white as he does.
Yeah, that's very true. He's completely dismissive of Sam. Basically, as soon as he met him, he's like, yeah, he's not like us, whatever. Like, not interested in him at all. Yeah, that is interesting. He does completely write him off as well, which I feel is a mistake a little bit also, because Sam is kind of badass in his own right. Yeah? So.
Definitely. Sam comes back and, like I said, asks and speaks to Dean immediately, and they kind of go outside. And Dean doesn't believe that monsters can't be evil. Like, that's kind of what this conversation leads to.
Where were you?
In the nest.
You found it?
They found me, man.
How'd you get out? How many did you kill?
None.
Well, Sam, they didn't just let you go.
That's exactly what they did.
Exactly. He really just can't wrap his head around it. And I think it's kind of summed up in the two lines that they say, that they're both describing their job.
What part of vampires don't you understand, Sam? If it's supernatural, we kill it. End of story. That's our job.
No, Dean, that is not our job. Our job is hunting evil. And if these things aren't killing people, they're not evil.
Of course they're killing people. That's what they do. They're all the same, Sam. They're not human, okay? We have to exterminate every last one of them.
No, Dean, I don't think so, all right? Not this time.
They obviously both see this in two different ways at this point, which is interesting. I think they've spent so much time together now that they at least know what their job is, that they're on the same page with it.
So far, everything that has been on the same page. There hasn't aside from Nightmare, there hasn't really been anything else that they've kind of disagreed that the thing needs to be killed.
Yeah. And I think Nightmare only caused a moral dilemma for Dean because Max was human.
Yeah.
Like you said, I think if he'd been any kind of supernaturally inclined, apart from having psychic powers, he would have been gone. Right? Yeah. But, like, Dean's not having it. He likes Gordon, like, and he wants to work with him.
I mean, they're both trusting people they don't really know, because Sam confronts him about Gordon, saying, like, you can't just trust this person you just met. And I called Ellen to find out who he was. And so, but they're both trusting people they haven't really met. The way that Dean says you called Ellen was kind of like, you called Mom.
It was. That tone was so, yeah, like, can't believe you told on me.
Yeah.
And then Sam out of nowhere decides to, like, psychoanalyze Dean for filth. Like...
Totally for filth.
You don't think I can see what this is?
talking
He's
about?
a substitute for Dad, isn't he? A poor one.
Shut up, Sam.
He's not even close, Dean. Not on his best day.
You know what? I'm not even
You know
gonna
what? You
talk about
slap on this big fake smile, but I can see right through it. Because I know how you feel, Dean. Dad's dead. And he left a hole, and it hurts so bad you can't take it. But you can't just fill up that hole with whoever you want to. It's an insult to his memory.
Just went, whoa, okay. Yeah. And, like, yeah, he goes off. He says that, you know, he does understand how Dean feels, but that he can't fill that hole inside him with just anybody, which, phrasing a little bit. And then he said that it's an insult to Dad's memory. And I was like, oh, you done it. You said the bad thing. The way Dean turns and says, like, okay, and then punches him in the face, I was like, I wasn't expecting him to punch him.
No, not at all. There's not many times that they attack each other, and I feel so far it seems to have always been Dean attacking Sam.
Yeah, it is.
There's been a couple of times, I think, when, like, Jessica was involved, that Sam has been a little...
Sam gets, like, pushy. He doesn't get punchy, right?
Yeah.
But it's not okay.
Yeah, no. I wrote that's not good. But then before the, like, next thing happens, and, like, Sam just comes back from that and, like, okay with it, which is really weird that he's okay with being punched in the face.
Yes. Yeah. Which means that he was kind of expecting it, I guess, almost. He doesn't seem shocked or surprised, which is not great. I mean,
don't punch your siblings.
Don't punch your siblings. I have definitely, when I was younger, fought with my brother. Yeah. But I think once he got over 6 foot, that stopped because I knew he would definitely be.
Yeah, that didn't stop me, but the height difference between me and my brother is not quite as extreme as you and your brother.
That's true. I mean, yeah, there's a clear 1.5 foot difference between us. Like, it's crazy. But it's always, the thing is, when you do fight with your siblings, I think you do come back from it fairly quickly, but generally because you understand it's not that serious. It's not serious. Yeah. But I think here it was serious, which I think is why it was a bit uncomfortable.
Yeah, because it wasn't like a... That was a full-on swing. That wasn't like a... I don't think he was holding back on that.
Nope.
It definitely... I think, again, this is probably boiling over from some of the other stuff that's been happening.
Yeah.
You know, again, the episode's called Bloodlust, so carrying on from, like, the violence of just what has happened.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's still coming down from, like... And they've also just been, him and Gordon have just been talking about, like, hunting more vampires. So he's already amped up.
Mm-hmm.
So I think had it not come about this way, he may not have taken the swing. It's not to say that he wouldn't, but he may not have.
I agree. Emotions are very high. I think this is a problem. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, Dean goes back in to talk to Gordon because he's going to go help him do the hunt. But he's gone. He also took the Impala keys. I thought for a second he'd stolen the Impala.
Me too.
And I was like, well, he's never coming back from that. Like, Dean's never going to speak to him again as soon as he sees him. But no, he didn't. He just took them to slow him down. So Dean hotwires the Impala. Is not happy about it because he's literally just fixed it. And Sam shows how awesome he is because he does know exactly where that farmhouse is. Like, even with the bag on his head, he was tracking it and... He fully knows exactly where it is, and Dean is impressed with him.
You're good. It must have pain in the ass, but you're good.
The little conversation that they have before this of, like, sort of Dean asks him, like, how do you know that it was 4 minutes? He's like, well, I counted. Like, it was just as if it was the most obvious thing to do, just to count, like, when you're in a car. Which, I mean, what he did is actually really, really difficult. That, like, you really have to know, like, how it feels to turn and things like that, because I don't think I could do that.
Where did he learn to do that though? Did John just like somehow just like lock them in the trunk sometimes and be like, tell us where we are now? Like that's a learned skill, right?
And so actually, it could also be he's lived in that car his entire life, so he knows how it feels like. Because this is also coming from somebody who, when I was growing up, we would drive to Switzerland from England because where part of my family lives, and this was before GPS, so we looked at maps, and my parents would always get lost. So me and my brother would always have maps in the back with us and track where we're going. So now I know where I am most of the time. It's really difficult for me to get lost unless I'm walking somewhere, because it like side streets and stuff are a bit more difficult to keep track of. But so it could also be that the fact that, you know, he's been in a car, he's had to deal with directions, and like when you're not in the front seat, you do like recognize how certain things move in a car.
Yeah.
So though it is a learned skill, he probably also did get locked in the trunk.
Yeah, that's true. You're right. He lived his whole life in that car. Oh.
Yeah.
So we cut to Eli and Lenore, and they're getting ready to leave, and Eli doesn't want to go. He's saying they should stay and fight, like it's self-defense at this point. But Lenore's saying, like, no, we have to go.
We can't leave like this. Lenore, listen to me. We need to stay and fight.
They were my friends too, Eli. My family.
That's not what I'm talking about. This is self-defense. Kill or be killed. They can't hunt us if they're dead.
I love how they bring everything back to family in this show. Like, all the time. Lenore says as well, like, you know, if we can change, they can change. And I think that's really interesting as well, because I think that's one of the whole, like, sort of, there are a couple of things in this episode, this is the moral of the story, kind of thing. And I think that's one of them, is like, talking about people changing.
Yeah, definitely. And as this conversation is happening, we see, like, Gordon driving. That bridge is totally the bridge from Pilot.
It must be. It looks exactly the same.
It looks exactly the same. And so Lenore is loading up the car and it's like sort of looking around. And then Gordon stabs her in the chest with dead man's blood.
Yeah, brutal.
Yeah. And then next scene is her being basically tortured with the dead man's blood. And Sam and Dean arrive, and like Dean doesn't look too comfortable with the torture that's going on, right?
Yeah, no, he definitely looks uncomfortable. And I think it's also a reaction to the way Gordon's talking about it. He's very matter of fact, and it's super creepy. It is exactly like it's just a job. And like, to Sam and Dean, it is a job, but it's not just a job, right? It's their, like, calling, I guess. But for Gordon, this is very matter of fact. Like, this is a monster. It's gonna die. Like, he doesn't see Lenore as a person whatsoever.
Yeah, no. And Dean's kind of like, okay, well, it's kind of enough. Like, she's not going to give you anything. And he's like, yeah, you're right. You know what? I'm just going to kill her. This is a very, very sharp knife. I've just sharpened it before. And he kind of goes to decapitate her, and Sam sort of, like, steps up and is like, you're not going to hurt her. And then points the very, very, very sharp knife at Sam. And Dean's not having that. Like, he gets very defensive very quickly.
Yes, exactly. And, like, as they're trying to kind of, like, talk him down, Gordon tells them about his sister. And, like, I had remembered this from watching it previously, that his sister wasn't killed by vampires, she was turned by vampires. And that ultimately he hunted them all down and killed her as well.
So I hunted her down, and I killed her myself.
You did what?
It wasn't my sister anymore. It wasn't human. I didn't blink. And neither would you.
And that's the moment that Dean was like, nah, I'm out. And I could see it on his face. He was like, he killed his own sister? No. This is not someone I want to associate with.
Yes. And I was like, wow, foreshadowing much. Yeah.
Yeah.
But only if you're cursed with knowledge, which you can get stickers.
Perfect. Yeah, which, okay, it's just wild to me because, I don't know if to talk about it or not, but, like, we know what John told Dean, but we didn't know back then what John had told Dean, and it parallels so beautifully, and it's like,
yes,
what's he thinking at this moment? Like,
this episode is like one of those really good ones to go back and watch once you know the secrets, and it doesn't detract from the episode. It actually makes the episode better.
Absolutely. Oh, this was a good one. I was just that moment like, what's going through his mind?
Oh gosh, it was bad. It was good, but it was bad, but it was good. Cursed.
Yeah.
Ah! Gordon's on this mission to prove that Lenora is actually still a monster and like will continue to be a blood-sucking freak, even though I don't think they call her that. But
yeah.
I'm thinking. So he cuts Sam's arm with this big knife.
Yeah.
This whole little sequence, like, I'm pretty sure Sam could overpower Gordon quite easily.
Yeah, I think he's trying to prove a point as well.
Yeah, I think so too.
How quickly Dean pulls a gun on Gordon when he cuts Sam is like lightning fast.
Yeah, definitely. The blood drips on her face. It's kind of interesting that you would think if you're trying to prove a point of bloodlust, which is what, this is kind of proving, you would try and aim the wound like over her mouth.
Yeah, I thought that's what they were trying to go for, to be honest,
but like it drops on her cheek. It's like you would then reposition. Like the blood never goes in like anywhere near her mouth.
No, I guess it's just the smell, maybe.
But actually, Lenora resists, and that also changes Dean's mind to not kill her anyway.
Yeah, exactly. I think he was already having issues with Gordon, but this has kind of solidified the vampire thing for him. Sam takes Lenora outside, and like, I mean,
the way he picks her up, like he literally puts his neck like right next to her. Like, you are very trusting at this point.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, he's just picked up a vampire that's shown that she like shows her teeth at the sight of blood or whatever. So yeah. Full on trust there, Sam. Well done. And then Dean and Gordon kind of square up.
Sorry.
You're not serious.
I'm having a hard time believing it too, but I know what I saw. If you want those vampires, you gotta go through me.
I like that they disarm themselves before they start fighting. So like Gordon puts the knife down. Dean unloads his gun, which like, okay, but like just maybe not do the whole unloading thing, just put it away. Like, cause
he wants to be like honorable, I guess, and like because they the whole point is that they want to kill non-humans, so they don't really want to kill each other. But like as he's turning away to put the barrel of the gun away, Gordon takes like a cheap shot.
Yeah, he fights straight and then almost immediately picks up the knife again.
Yeah.
So Gordon wasn't on this honorable kick with Dean. Like, no. I don't think Gordon would have killed Dean though. I don't think he would have killed him on purpose.
I think he probably just wanted to stop him badly.
Yeah.
Maim him rather than kill him.
Or like, knocked him out, gone after the vampires and just like run off. That was probably his plan.
I mean, they fight and like get thrown around the room.
Yeah, they're fighting, and like at one point Gordon overpowers Dean and he's on the floor.
You're not like your brother. You're a killer. Like me.
Okay. I just need to talk about people calling Dean a killer because it happens over and over and over and over and over again in the seasons.
Yeah.
And this whole episode is about people overcoming the expectations that people have for them. So, the vampires not being evil, the hunters not being the good guys. And yet here's Gordon calling Dean a killer, and he kind of carries that with him still for ages.
Yeah.
So why Dean? Did he see all this happening, so the flipping of roles in this, and then not apply it to himself? Like, oh, Gordon thinks that, I'm a weapon, I'm a killer, just like him. And then he goes on believing that for years and years and years, despite all evidence to the contrary, and all of the flipping that the script that even happens in just this episode, let alone other episodes as well. Yeah, it just made me think of that because right up to the very last, 15-19, they're still talking about Dean in this way. And I was like, but he's seen so many times that people can, overcome their nature. Yeah, that's the word. So, anyway.
It's kind of interesting that they use the term killer because it has a negative connotation to it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But Gordon doesn't see himself as a bad guy.
No.
And so far, they haven't... Yeah, so, probably the reason why that stuck with him so much is because he did kill a human when he killed that demon. That was probably what it was.
So, yeah, it was an interesting choice of words, and, like, I'm sure they get echoed later on by other people, demons, monsters, other hunters,
Everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was I forgot that happened. Oh,
sorry, bummed you out.
That's fine. It did, but then it gets counteracted by like when Dean then overpowers Gordon and like puts him in a headlock and bumps him into the door frame. It's like, sorry.
Such a cheap shot. It's already beat him.
But like, I thought it was kind of weird that he put him in a headlock like that. Like, that's easy. That the way he had him was probably very easy to get out of, even if Gordon was like injured and like not as strong.
I think I think he's already kind of knocked him out. I think he's just kind of.
But he was still walking. It wasn't like he was dragging him.
That's true.
I don't know.
Yeah,
anyway,
it was weird.
It was done for comedic effect, basically. So I'll let it pass.
As he ties Gordon up, he does say, like, I might be like you, I might not. But then he also does say, like, at least I'm not the one tied up. So, again, like, comedic, but also, I was like, yeah, you're not. Wow.
Yeah.
I say he's not, but I mean, sometimes.
But only when he's, like, emotionally unstable.
That's really true, actually. Yeah, I think so. It definitely, big emotions play into Dean's actions all the time.
Yeah. So comes back a little bit later, and Gordon's just like sat in the chair, like very stiff, very like he's super creepy in this scene, like really really creepy. Like he doesn't move his head, he doesn't move anything. He's just moving his eyes around. Sterling Brown, good job.
Yeah,
like
it's like the mask is off.
Yeah,
like he was putting on all this front to them of like being really friendly and jovial while they're helping him out, but now like it's slipped and he's just like a killer, a hunter.
It's almost so. Again, with the flipping of the script, the vampires have shown more humanity than Gordon has.
Yeah,
especially in the scene, like all his humanity's gone. And so Dean's come by and he's just sort of saying, "Oh, we'll send someone to like." They basically taunt him, saying. In a few days, someone will come by and come get you out. And then he has another wicked cheap shot. And like,
yeah, he's tied up already. That's a bad form.
And like the chair tips over. It's really like. So why do you think he did that? Like, who do you think he is punching him for? And I'm probably going way too much into this, but it's for me. It's either. The fact that he admitted that he killed his sister, so like that's a big, big no-no to Dean.
Yeah.
Or he's just being super petty, and because Gordon got the first punch in, he wanted his own.
Maybe. I mean, I got more into it than even you did. I wrote, "Oh, didn't Sam say that Gordon was a stand-in for John?" I think you're right. I think the problem is with Gordon that he is a reflection of Dean. He's a reflection of him in the way that John is. So he's the how am I trying to say this? He's the like negative parts of hunting, right? Right. The killing people, the like not caring about stuff. And he's also very single-minded in that, yeah, we're right, he killed his family and in the pursuit of like hunting monsters and things. And I think Dean sees that in himself and he doesn't like that bit about himself either.
Right.
And so Gordon kind of represents that. Also, it is just kind of a cheap shot on your right. Gordon did that one in first, so you can either go real deep with it or like real shallow with it, and it works both ways.
It does. It really does. And that's a good character if you can go that deep and like that shallow.
Yeah, exactly.
And like, so this next scene, obviously Dean has regrets.
Wish we never took this job. Jacked everything up.
What do you mean?
Think about all the hunts we went on, Sammy, our whole lives.
Okay.
What if we killed things that didn't deserve killing? You know? I mean, the way Dad raised us.
Dean, after what happened to Mom, Dad did the best he could.
I know he did. But the man wasn't perfect. And the way he raised us to hate those things, and man, I hate them. I do. When I killed that vampire at the mill, I didn't even think about it. Hell, I even enjoyed it.
You didn't kill Lenore.
No, but every instinct told me to. I was gonna kill her. I was gonna kill them all.
Yeah, Dean, but you didn't. And that's what matters.
And I was wondering, like, Sam can see the nuances. Like, he accepted it much faster than Dean did. I was just wondering, like, why Sam could see it easier than Dean. And it's probably because, again, how they were raised with John, like, and the good soldier of you kill the bad thing. John has told Dean this over and over and over and over and over again. You kill the bad thing, you kill the bad thing. Whereas Sam has always been the one of like, well, why do we have to kill the bad thing?
Sam turned out to be a really good person, right? Ultimately, like morally, he's a pretty good person. And you're right, he can see the nuances and things. And he turned out that way really because of Dean, because Dean raised him, right?
Right.
So I think he has a different worldview on things because of the like love and care that like Dean showed him through the years of like parenting him, whereas Dean never got that from John, really.
Yeah,
so, and because what raised Dean? Like TV. So, and what happens on TV? Like it's really like good versus evil. There's heroes and there's villains, and there's no real shades of grey, especially when you're watching TV as a child. So yeah, I think Dean has a lot to do with the way that Sam sees the world, to be honest.
Yeah, and like, I mean, Dean even says he was raised to hate those things.
Yeah.
So,
like, he says, like, he's clearly, like, prejudiced against vampires and monsters. He says that he enjoys killing them, like, he really hates them, and that he would have killed them if it wasn't for Sam, like, talking him out of it and holding him back. Which, again, like, the other thing of this episode is it's about overcoming the like teachings that your parents give you, because they're saying that John instilled these prejudices in them, and they've managed to overcome them through this episode. I mean, Sam did a long time ago, but even he still had to work at it, because you're right, when he got kidnapped, he was still very much, no, you guys are monsters, why have you kidnapped me, like just gonna kill me, and was surprised when they didn't. So yeah, I think I really like this scene. I think the way they talk about John, Dean even says he wasn't perfect. He actually says the man wasn't perfect, and it's saying that out loud. This is good.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, bless. And then Dean says that it's because of Sam that he managed to like kind of see this in another way.
You didn't kill Lenore.
No, but every instinct told me to. I was gonna kill her. I was gonna kill them all.
Yeah, Dean, but you didn't. And that's what matters.
Yeah. Because you're a pain in my ass.
Guess I might have to stick around to be a pain in the ass then.
Thanks.
Don't mention it.
One of the last shots is Dean looking directly into the camera.
I know that shot. I've seen it so many times. It's like it's a very famous shot from the show.
And it's just like, why? Why are you doing this to me? Why are you doing? And it's not even like a short. It's like a good 4 seconds. Which try looking somebody in the eye for 4 seconds. It's uncomfortable.
Yeah, I just put, oh my god, that camera shot of Dean in capitals. No, I really, really, really enjoyed this episode. Like I was saying, I think it's the first episode where they're kind of really coming to terms with John dying. Like, although he's not really mentioned much in this episode, you can almost like feel his influence, especially on Dean in this one. The way he's talking about hunting and the way he's like vibing with Gordon and really eager to get back on the job, and then kind of to have it all flipped and him kind of losing that, I guess, feeling of John. I don't know, like, yeah, I think this is almost like a finding your own identity story. I really, really, really like it.
Yeah, me too. I think This is probably going to be one of those ones that sort of stay in my favourite episodes of season 2.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, and I think, Sam in this episode is also really good. This isn't particularly about one of them or the other. I mean, seeing Sam kind of... He also comes to terms with the shades of grey thing. I think you're right. Again, for him, this definitely started sort of around Nightmare and kind of concludes here. I don't think he ever sees the world differently again, I don't think he ever goes back to that black and white thinking. I think Dean struggled with it more in other episodes.
Definitely, I think, and also it also doesn't start. His Sam's worldview definitely gets altered towards the end of this season and like season 3, just because of his situation with being like, because it's like Paris hasn't come up yet so far in any sort of meaningful way. So there's definitely like he can't see the world in black and white, because if he did,
oh yeah,
he would basically want to like hate himself beyond the hating himself because of who he is kind of thing.
Yeah, that's completely right. Yeah, he has to see the world like that to exist in it. Oh, I love season 2 Sam. He's so much more fleshed out than season 1. I really feel like they got a handle on his character. In his last few episodes, he's just felt so more like Sam Winchester rather than like almost sidekicky, I guess, in season 1 sometimes. They feel more like a unit.
Definitely. Yeah, I agree with you on that one.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, so that was this week's episode. It's, we gave you a little bit of a shorter one after 2 very long ones.
Hope so.
Got you a little bit of a shorter one. So next week, episode 4, Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things.
Looking forward to you fitting that on a title card.
I know, me too. I was just looking at that. I'm like, really? But anyway, it'll be interesting. Yeah, so this one's actually not... I think it's one of the lowest rated episodes of the season, but it's still 8.0. So it's not bad, but it's not like up there. It's tickling a memory, but like it's not like... Maybe when I start watching it, I'll remember. Because again, like this season... I have to start watching the episodes, then I remember exactly what happens. Otherwise,
yeah, absolutely the same for me. Like as soon as it starts, I'm like, oh yeah, this episode. I completely 100% remember it. But the order that they came in, I'm certainly not sure. Just a reminder that we have designs on Redbubble, and we're adding more all the time. If you have any ideas for, I don't know, stickers and things you'd like to see from the podcast, just drop us a message and I'm sure we can get something together. So look for Escaping Purgatory podcast on there. We also do have a Ko-fi, which I'll put in the link description. Any like tips we raise from that is going towards sound equipment.
Yeah. Yep. Just to make this listening experience a little bit more pleasant.
Exactly.
Alright, so again, we are still stuck, even with the help of our co-host last week. And, we came face to face with some of the stuff that we didn't want to face in this episode. But we are still stuck. So hopefully next week we can make a bit more progress.
Bye.
Bye.